On this demonstration, performance, instruction is really because we are stupid, okay? When it comes to all the American Indians from the area. So this is actually the first time in Old Forge that I can think of that we've ever had somebody come down and actually tell us what everything actually is and give us the right information. So I'd like to introduce Shadow Spirit Echo, the Mountain Wolf Clan mother to the Northern Timberland Nation, Tribal Elder Grandmother Dragonfly, and Warrior Ghost Dancer River Wild. And with that, I'm going to turn the program over to them.
I am Shadow Spirit Echo, Mountain Wolf Clan mother to the Northeastern Timberland Nation. My counsel is based on Christian. Before I start, I want to tell you that my journey started with I have a story. I'm a backwoods farmer. I'm a daughter of a farmer. And there was many things we learned growing up that we never knew existed, but we excelled on 97.5 acres of land, one house, and the only U-shaped farm of its kind in Madisonville. Accompanying me is Warrior Ghost Dancer River Wild. Wherever a clan mother goes, a warrior has got to be with her. He is there to protect her, serve her, help her. That's what he's there for. He is a ghost dancer, so therefore he cannot speak. He was gifted ghost marks, and what does this mean? When we go in a circle to dance around, he will dance in reverse, silently. He's not to talk, for he's dancing for the dead. Every council should have a tribal elder. They are our treasures. Grandmother Dragonfly, her duties are to counsel us, direct us, pass down stories, and be there. Her time from the circle has now ended, but she can still go in her wheelchair, which is fine. And the circle is very sacred. So I'm not here to give you facts. Some things will be facts, and other things will be what was handed down to me from my elders that I remembered. I was very fortunate to have 5 grandmothers and remember all of them. I had 2 greats, 2 regulars, and 1 great-great. And I remember all of them, and I'm very fortunate. So, with saying that, don't ask me why Chief Street so-and-so is white, because, I don't know. I'm from the woods. I don't know. I'd like to start, well, before I do that, oh, my knife.
It's a real one.
When I was asked to come here to Old Forge to speak, I thought, sure, okay. And I went, I heard it was haunted. I painted my face because I don't want nothing on my back when I go home. Okay, I believe that. And this is why I have my face. I like to start with a prayer. And this is, the reason why I read is because I flip-flop. This is Mitakeo Oyasin, which you will see a lot of that. Now that's just a word. That is a prayer. In the Shoshone language, one word can tell the whole story. So for this Mitokea Oyasin, this is what it means. Aho, Mitakeo Oyasin. All my relatives, I honor you in this circle. of life with me today. I am grateful for this opportunity to acknowledge you. To the Creator for the ultimate gift of life, I thank you. To the mineral nations that has built and maintained my bones and all foundations of life experiences, I thank you. To the plant nations that sustains my organs and body and gives me healing herbs for sickness, I thank you. The animal nation that feeds me from your flesh and offers your loyal companionship in this walk of life, I thank you. To the human nation that shares my path as a soul upon the sacred wheel of earthly life, I thank you. To the spirit nation that guides me invisibly through the ups and the downs of my life and for carrying the torch of life through the ages, I thank you. To the four winds of change and growth, I thank you. You are all my relations, my relatives, without whom I would not live. We are in the circle of life together, coexisting, codependent, co-creating our destiny. One not more important than the other. One nation evolving from the other, and yet each depends upon one above and the one below. All of us are part of the great mystery. I thank you for this life. Aho.
Aho.
Okay, my presentation is A Voice in the Wind, and the reason why I chose A Voice in the Wind is because it's the past. And that's why. Now, I lived on a farm up in Madisonville. Ooh, my sister died, and we left and came back home to Madisonville. And I never owned a bike. I had a horse. And, you know, you hear people say, there ain't no panthers around, there ain't no mountain lions. I had a champion gelding, and my mother was in the hospital with cancer, and the doctor had called at 11 o'clock at night and said, I need to talk to your dad. I said, well, okay. I saddled up my horse, and the 3-acre field is like all the way back to property. In the dark of night, I went.
Right.
As I was going down the laneway on the stone wall, I heard, and then my horse's head started jerking up. And I think he's gonna buck me off, so I grabbed him by the mane. Rafty started, and then he went into a full gallop. Before he did that, on the stone wall was a black panther. And he was not nice. I made it back to the 3-acre field where my brothers and my father were mowing because they wanted to beat the rain. I had told my father the message, and then I told him about the panther. And he wanted to beat me because he had always said, at night, don't take the laneway, cut through the woods. I didn't listen. I listen now. I'm going to give some of my family background so you can understand a little better about my family and I. I am the daughter to Christine M. Swartz, who was born in Steen, Wayne County. As I was driving through Steen, I saw no hospitals. I asked Mom, were you born in a cabin? She said, no, but your father was. She never told me exactly where she was born. She was a past matron of the Harriet Green Chapter 198 Order of the Eastern Star, past master of the Madisonville Grange 899 Patron of Husbandry, first president of the Ladies Auxiliary of Madisonville Fire Company. After she married my father, she changed her middle initial to S for her family name of Swartz. She was Shoshone and Dutch German. She was very superstitious. I am clanned by inheritance. My father, Charles E. Havenstrite, was born in Dorier, Pennsylvania. I asked him, "Were you born in a cabin?" He said, "No, but your mother was." He never told me exactly where he was born. He was a member of the Young Sons of the Pioneers, Navy vet, fought in the Korean War. He was a member of the Moscow Lodge 504 Free and Accepted Masons. He was a 33-degree Mason and a life member of the Madisonville Fire Company. He was a farmer. He was Blackfoot and German. There is no difference between Blackfoot and Blackfeet. Only Blackfoot is federally recognized. As a farmer, he would follow the cycle of the moon. He would know when to plant and when to harvest. And he always left a field for the animals. Oh, excuse me. My great-grandmother, Maud Swartz. She traveled from the west to Quicktown, which today is now called Moscow, Madisonville, Elmhurst, Daleville, Gouldsboro. It was called Quicktown because you quickly went through. She lived in Moscow, Pennsylvania, and one wheel from her Conestoga wagon sat at the end of her driveway till the day she died. Quicktown was named Moscow and Madisonville. Moscow still has historical places that can be seen today. My bloodline was one of the first to settle here. Now, in Moscow, they have a bar that was called Doc's Hard Rock Cafe, which now was sold, and now someone else owns it, and I don't know the name of it. But it's the basement, the bar, and the upstairs. And downstairs, the travelers would come to park their horse and buggies. You can see the stanchions, you can see where they park to this day. In the middle was a bar and an eatery. Third floor was the bedrooms, and you were only there one night. 2 at the most. It was a stopping place for settlers. Now, Willard Stevens owned the pharmacy and a penny counter on Church Street in Moscow, which is now a restaurant. The kids used to hang out there. Now, Willard was really an important man to everybody. He was the only pharmacist there. He was good friends with my grandfather, Franklin Swartz. And this is not documented, but it's true. The proof is in Willard's grandson, who lives in Lancaster. Franklin Swartz was nicknamed Cowboy Swartz. He surveyed all of Moscow, Daleville, and Elmhurst. I believe that's it. The maps are down in Lancaster. My great-grandmother told me it was her great-grandmother at age 13 ran away and she married a Shoshone. She was instantly disowned and removed from the family Bible. Native American beliefs are deeply rooted in their culture. Everything is sacred, from the largest mountain to the smallest plant and animal. A lesson can be learned in everything and experienced in everything that has a purpose. To sum up Native spirituality, it's about honor, love, and respect. Not only do we love, honor, and respect our Creator and Mother Earth, but also every living thing. It's about being in touch with ourselves and everything about us, around us. It's about knowing and understanding that we are a part of everything and everything is a part of us. We are all one. We also believe our elders hold the answers. Our elders keep our culture alive. We have much to learn from our elders, and they deserve and receive our utmost respect. Native American isn't about blood. It's what's in the heart. The love for the land, the respect for it, those who inhabit it and respect it. Acknowledgement of the spirits and the elders. This is what it is to be Native. My faith does not include material things. My treasure is Creator Himself. Creator is a treasure. Natives love to worship from birth to death. He reverenced his surroundings and considered himself born in the luxurious lap of Mother Earth. No place to him was humble. There was nothing between him and the big holy Wankintaka. Wankintaka is the native name for creator. The contact was immediate, personal, and the blessing Wankintaka flowed over the Indian like rain showers the skies. Wankintaka, not only aloof, apart, and ever seeking to quell evil forces, he did not punish the animals and life. Likewise, he did not punish man. He was not a punishing God, for there was never a question as to the supremacy of evil power over and above the power of good. One ruling power, that was good. Now, under my paint, I look white. And I do have European in my family. Dutch, German, whatever you want to call it. Far back, when my family came from the West to here and from wherever, it was a sin to be native. It was just a sin. Natives couldn't read, they couldn't write, they couldn't talk. They were considered like African American, and they were made slaves. So, as I was growing up, I am an identical twin. They tried to purge the native out of us so that we would be white and accepted. This was a standing rule from generation to generation to generation. Not anymore. In 1969, Native Americans were declared United States citizens. 1969.
1969, yo.
Today, looking back on my years of life, I feel so blessed. I remember all my grandmothers and their stories and their faith. My great-grandmother said our Shoshone grandfather prophesied that twins would be born every third generation. He would make turquoise jewelry for a living. For my sister and I, he made us a baby ring, a bracelet, and a necklace. Unfortunately, my house was burnt down due to arson. All of my native inheritance is gone. Now, this grandfather that I have, that I never knew, this is a couple generations ago, he was a drunk. And he would dance on the mercantile store for his quart of whiskey. He loved to drink. Every day he was there, and finally the tribe said, "No more. You have shamed us too much," and he was exiled from his tribe. Now, my great-grandmother, Christine, to her, prayer was a big deal. So we were raised with, you pray. We pray now, and you learn these prayers, and they will go with you all through your life. Like I said, being Native is a religion. It's a way of life. It's not a religion, it's a way of life. To this day, before my feet touch the floor, I look to the east and give thanks to Creator for bringing me through the night, for the gift of life, light, and breath, because it is a gift. From 1600 to the 1800s, in Pennsylvania, no county was extinct to native wars. Wars between themselves and the settlers. It is estimated that 20,000 natives inhabited Pennsylvania during the 1600s to the early 1800s. Today, their population is 0. We are told that the Native American died due to war and disease. This is true. Sometimes I would walk through graveyards just to look and see. I came across a graveyard where in the far back corner was many, many babies, all 3 years and under. I wanted to know why these babies died. Well, before the 1800s, during the 1800s, they had what was called the Black Plague. And all I could think of was, what? A Black Plague. Now, my neighbor down the road was a wonderful man, and he worked the salt mines up in Daleville. And one day, he dug down deep. He got sick. boom, like that. So they took him to the hospital and did what they could. This man was dead within 24 hours. There was a bacteria that was so far down in the ground that went into his body and killed him. They closed up the salt mine, and that salt mine's up in Daleville.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still there.
We'll find out what that bacteria was.
Probably anthrax.
You know, during that time when I found out this man, gorgeous, family of 5, a wife, no, they would not give us the answer to that.
Wow.
All the newspapers and everything, but I know the man's name, and I know what his wife told me, and that's how I found out about that. Watch how far down you go into a ground.
Wow.
When you go into an old cemetery, you will see field stones as grave markers. Now, people were too poor to afford a headstone, so they would use field stones. Large stones were adults, small were children. And most times they were slaves. Other times they were just poor, poor people. Now in Pennsylvania there are 6 federal nations: Iroquois, Seneca, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, Mohawk, and Tuscarora. Now I want to talk about my native uncle who has passed away. And he loved the hemlock tree. And after he gave me a demonstration, one day it was hammering rain and it hurt. And I went to him and I said, "Uncle, I'm so cold and so wet. Come here, little one." So I went to him and he took me to a hemlock tree and he just started breaking down branches to dry. And it's still pouring. And you know what? He had me a fire going within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I love the hemlock tree. Because when you are in inclement weather,
Wow.
take down those dried branches. They go like that.
Real fast.
Now, 590 Hamlin Highway going through Hamlin down to Goose Pond Road is the original Iroquois Trail.
Oh. Okay.
The white man paved it and took over. Now, the native loved to plant orchards. There were settlers that were settling in an orchard. And this orchard is Little Meadows. Little Meadows. It's up in Wayne County. And that meadow is still there today. The natives killed every settler there. Warrior Run is justly named. This is the trail that is now paved. The native made this road too. They would run to kill the settler. And they did. Now, if you know where Lake Janeiro is, when you go down past, on the left-hand side is an old farm. On this farm lived a very old man, and there is a field. And in this field, 2,000, General Wayne gave the order to exterminate the Indians in Wayne County. So, where was I going with this? Yeah, that field is there today. It's exactly the way it was during this war, and that war was called the Paoli War. 2,000 Indians, men, women, and children, are dead. Jessup Mountain breaks my heart.
Jessup Mountain.
Now, there was a time when you would come over Jessup Mountain and you'd see those windy roads with the rocks that blocked it off. And I said to my grandmother, "What's with that?" And she says, "Honey, that's called Snake Mountain. Industry, pioneers, and Indians would travel that." Oh, really? It's windy because if you went straight, you would lose your horse, you would lose your buggy, or even your life. Settler killed Indian, Indian killed settler. I don't know what happened, but they blocked off the road. Now, Jessup Mountain was full of lush trees, many, many trees. Well, not no more. They're gone. And so is the winding road. Now, Thornhurst, I used to think, yeah, okay, I'll go for a ride. Ugh. I got lost. Now, 20 years ago when I went through Thornhurst looked exactly the way it did back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And I'm driving, and I'm just seeing woods. I'm driving, more woods. I'm thinking, Lord, I'm lost. So I was told, look for the totem pole. When you get to the totem pole, make a left. I'm there, okay. So I'm driving, and there, on the right, was a totem pole that stood maybe about this high, weather-beaten and old. I thought, thank God for the totem pole. That is an original. In Madisonville, there was this house that had a totem pole alongside of it. And this totem pole had been there way beyond my memory or my parents. But people kept getting divorced. People were dying. And they thought it was the totem pole. They cut the totem pole down and burnt it instead of donating it to a museum.
So totem pole in Thornhurst still exists?
You know, I won't go down that road.
No, she won't.
I learned my lesson.
Wow.
Now, the old Elmhurst Boulevard, which happened to have been my parents' and my great-grandparents' way of travel into Scranton. This road leads to the wholesale block, later named Lackawanna Avenue. Now, my great-grandmother would live long enough to bury 6 children and her husband.
Oh my God. Wow.
To supplement her income, she would hitch up her buckboard, put her produce in the buckboard, and head to the wholesale block in Scranton. Wholesale block is the first road in Scranton. It was a filthy, dirty, dusty road. One side railroad, trains, the other side produce market. From there it flourished. She lived on $1 a week.
Right.
Roaring Brook. There are 83,000 miles of streams in Pennsylvania. Lackawanna is Lenape for a river that forks. Lechekwanahonk is the native word. Every river, stream, and brook in the native would travel and live. It is said if you dig 200 to 300 feet down in the sediment, you could find native artifacts.
Wow.
This is against the law. Don't do it. Roaring Brook in Hollisterville, we had high waters that came up, and there was a dugout canoe that was found there. And now this canoe rests at the Everhart Museum.
Oh, yeah.
Now, each nation has their own traditions on the burial rites. The tribe that lived in Hollisterville would wrap up their dead in pelts, tie them upright in their canoe, then tie the canoe upright to a tree for 1 year. The village moved away for 1 year. After 1 year, they would go back with the deceased dog and his horse. And then they would burn everything down, and they would never come back. Now, how do you comfort the living when a child meets an untimely death? I'm Shoshone. We make pahaknes. A pahakne is a stick with a hoop on it. And inside the hoop is parts of Mother Earth. And only the parents can touch this hoop. And as they hold the hoop, the spirit of their deceased child comes through the hoop. To visit with the parent's spirit. If anybody removes this pahakne is placed in the middle of the grave. If anybody removes this pahakne, they are cursed until atonement is made. All burial sites are sacred. I humbly ask, please respect our graves. A burial mound represents a pregnant woman. From spirit we come, to spirit we go. born from the north to our final rest in the west. Natives believe that if you leave a footprint on a grave site, an evil spirit will follow you till atonement is made. Natives believe the deceased person's spirit remains at the grave for 4 days. If the deceased would be, no, if you went there within that 4 days, that spirit becomes evil. Evil because it is no longer human and it wants to come back. After 4 days, the spirit descends to the spirit land called heaven. 40-foot falls. I love the 40-foot falls. Well,
You said descends, now is that this?
Ascend.
Oh, ascend.
in Archibald, where the Roaring Brook flows in, or was a flows into, is or was a beautiful. Huh. There are many caves there where the falls are, and there's one cave with markings in it. They are the original native markings
See that?
from the Indians of that time. Also, there is a huge, I mean huge burial ground. You don't want to go in there because I know one person who they just thought, hey, well, just go check out. As they stood outside that mound, they felt very creepy, and so they left and they didn't come back. And that's why natives don't go back to the grave sites, because they want their dead to go to the spirit land. And they don't want evil on, in them, or anything of that nature. In order to make atonement, you need a shaman. You cannot do it alone. Now, when you're coming up the Archibald Mountain, headed into Lake Ariel, there's a house with those electrical panels, a whole bunch of them there. Up from that, you'll see a grassy path that goes through. It's kind of like roped off. About a mile back, there is a great big circle worn into the ground where the Indians from the 40-foot falls would come and dance. To this day, that ground is still pounded down, and it is now a secret doping, drinking, partying place.
Big secret.
Archibald was named White Oak Run because of the white oak trees. Archibald is the 7th largest borough in Pennsylvania. Welsh, Irish, and German settled here. They killed the Indian and enslaved and jailed them. Now, in Jefferson Township, there is this, I really do love our elderly, I do. There is this lady, and she's like in her 90s, and she owns a lot of property, handed down generation. And on her property is this huge rock ledge that juts out. Now, she's 90-something now, and she told me that it was her great-grandfather that told her he saw the last Indian back in 1929 that came to the ledge to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Many, many Indians would dance on this ledge.
Wow.
Now, also on her property, there's a little creek. Some Indians would travel from the south to the north by way of this creek, and they would camp there. Now, they would do teepees, and if you ever had a teepee, it's the quickest way to pitch a tent you'll ever know. And this is what they did. They traveled this creek from spring to summer, and then in the fall, when the harvest moon comes up, they headed back out. Now, also, back on the property that I lived on, there was a large rock oven. Now, did Indians bake? Yes, they did. And this rock was a big rock, and it was hollowed out, and hey, that's cool. And then I looked over, and there were 4 poles that had evidently started growing to be trees. And I thought, Well, the native who lived there placed their dead high up. They would be wrapped in their pelts,
Yeah.
and they would leave and never come back. Time and its elements would take its place. And that is what happened. Also, further back, where the land is landlocked, that means nobody can access it without permission from the owner. There are 4 columns of rocks. And I thought, those 4 columns of rocks were made as a directional point for the Native American. Now, Dr. Intellisano was with me, and there was a tree with a mound. I said, yeah, let's see what's in here. He said, don't touch that. That's a baby. We left. We didn't go back. My great-grandmother would warn us, don't go through Mount Cobb. There's mountain lions and they will get you. Well, Mount Cobb was a meeting place for the Indians. It was used for smoke signals. In Pennsylvania, no county was extinct to native wars between themselves and to the settlers. Every native would look to the sky and would know when to run or to stay. It is estimated, again, 20,000 natives inhabited Pennsylvania during the 16 to the early 1800s. Now, my grandmother, Freema Taylor Havenstrite Nolly, lived in Taylor. And she was raised in a cabin. And one day, my Uncle Jimmy had to go to the mercantile. And so he cut through the woods and what have you. And it's very important to have good hearing when you're in the woods. And he heard, and he went looking around. There was a mountain lion. It followed him 2 miles to the cabin. He got in the cabin and slammed the door. My grandmother said, Jimmy, what's wrong? That's a mountain lion out there. She looked, that mountain lion circled that cabin for 4 hours. He had to have been awful hungry.
Wow.
Now, it is believed that from 30 to 60,000 years ago, during the Ice Age, that the native descended from Alaska and Siberia to Pennsylvania. It took many years for our people to come here, and they traveled in small groups. From the 16 to the 1800s, Pennsylvania was rich in soil, plants, trees, and wildlife. Some trees, plant life, and animals are now extinct. Native women were the keeper of the seeds. They always had what was called the 3 sisters. And anywhere you go in Pennsylvania, you will see corn, bean, and squash. They're the 3 sisters. Now, you want to make room in your garden for more stuff. When you plant your corn, plant your beans around the corn so the beans can grow up the corn. Then you plant your squash because that's going to vine out and choke out the weeds. There's your garden. The first corn on the cob was this big. It was the Native American that made it this big. In the United States, there is 75 acres of white Indian corn. Now, Indian corn has 8 rows, no more. 75 acres. That's all that's left. There's nowhere else that an 8-row corn cob is grown. Now, the native fought for the land Pennsylvania possessed until the Pale Prophet, the peacekeeper, came. I believe in 1290, the lost tribes of Israel up in the mountains were with the Native American, and so was the Pale Prophet. He taught us our medicine and our sacreds, which are sage, cedar, sweet grass, and tobacco. He spoke Algonquin. Now, in the Algonquin language, you can speak 17 languages. The Algonquin was subservient to the Iroquois here in Pennsylvania. Many warring tribes made peace because of the Algonquin. The sacrets the Pale Prophet gave us are still used today. He also, I believe, gave us our smudging prayer. We use an abalone shell and place our sage, sweetgrass, cedar, or tobacco either together or one at a time. We burn this, blow it out the fire, and use the smoke to purify. I have been given permission from a Wolf Clan mother from the West to speak out loud this ancient prayer that was never, and I mean never, allowed to be spoken out loud. As you burn your sage, you bring, and the smoke rises from the shell. We bring the smoke over our heads first for good thoughts, no anger, no jealousy or hate. To our eyes, to see the world around you in a good way. To the throat, to speak kindness in a non-judgmental way. Ears, listen to each other instead of waiting to speak. Heart, feel connected to all human beings in a loving way. Under feet. This way, the dark side of your soul and the world will not follow in your footsteps. That ends the smudging prayer. Now, the Native American couldn't read or write, and why should they? All they were hunters, they were fishermen, they were gardeners. Now, Pennsylvania does not recognize the Native American, yet on top of our Capitol is a statue of an Iroquois Native American woman, and in the basement is a replica of that Iroquois woman. I'll get to that later. Now, I want to talk about the Shinnecock Nation out there in New York, Long Island. That was the last tribe to be federally recognized. It is the Shinnecock Nation on Long Island, New York. On October 1st, 2012, they became a federal recognized. It took over 30 years for them to be recognized. The native who lived in Lackawanna River left and went to Delaware and Canada. They were called Lenape. Now, children and the Shinnecock Nation. When our children are born, well, first off, little girls weren't allowed to dance to begin with. And the little girls went up to the elders and said, "We want to dance." Well, the men used to do what is called the fancy shawl dance. And what you would do is, she would do, men don't dance this dance anymore. She places her blanket around her, and she'll dance like a butterfly around the circle. In the Shinnecock Nation, if a young lady wants to date a man, she dances like this. And when the dance is open, she drops her blanket. If he accepts, she's got a date. Now, the dress of our ancestors was very rustic. Whatever they killed, they ate and wore it as well as making tools. Hip bones were used as paddles for their canoes. All hides were brain tanned by the woman. The woman made colorful dye for skins and face paint. Nothing was wasted. It is estimated that here we go again. Now, the native home in Pennsylvania during the summer, for the native, they lived in teepees. The ones who remained made huts. The huts were made of bark, moss, and mud for the logs. The floor was made of split logs. The back way into Maryland, there is an old beaten down hut exactly like this. It's an original. I don't know if it's still there or if it's gone. Now, from the 1600s through the 1800s, the native weapons were knife, warhawk, bow, arrow, spears, stone axes, and later the repeating rifle, better known as the Henry. During Vietnam, The United States military black ops used the tomahawk. Natives were not allowed to own property. They married whites. Some weapons women used as gardening tools. Now in 1976, my ex-husband was a fur trapper. He would trap the animal and bring it home. Then I would skin, stretch, and flush the hides for market. I bring this up because it was a very valuable part of my life. I was making about $200 a week on hides. Along the trail of trapping, you would meet other trappers. They would introduce themselves, make small conversation, then part. Fur trapping from the 17th through the 1800s was a very valuable part of life. Hides with no holes were given top price. All meat the trapper kept, or he gave it away. This was a great way for the native and trapper to meet. Now, when you're trapping in the wintertime, which is a good time to be trapping, it gets cold. Well, for the men, a capote was made. Yeah, let's see. This is a capote with this kind of a hat, all right, which is part of it. But you know, after they put it on their head, they wrapped it around their neck. The whites gave them the material for blankets. They made capotes. Famous people who traveled through PA. Christopher Hudson, Kit Carson, trapper, loved natives. He married 2 of them. Davy Crockett, he was a trapper, and he would wander creeks and brooks. John Chapman, Chapman Lake,
Chapman
was
Lake,
named
yeah.
after.
That's right.
Johnny Appleseed. He was a preacher, and he would plant bitter apples, and the white man really, really liked it because it made good whiskey. Now, Johnny Appleseed never bought any clothes or anything like that. He was a very religious man, and he felt that he would find favor in God if he never married, and he never did. The clothes that he wore came off of other people's clotheslines or hand-me-downs.
He was such a good guy, yeah.
Daniel Boone was captured by the Shawnee and left for dead. He escaped and came back with a vengeance. He would kill every Indian he saw. He hated the Indian.
Yeah.
He lived in Lancaster, PA. He led a group of settlers to Kentucky. Abraham Lincoln's grandparents were in this group. President Adams. The Adams family came here by way of the Mayflower. Nowhere in history will you hear where President Adams' family married into the native family. Yet in Gouldsboro,
Oh.
there is a lady by the name of Cynthia Adams, and she's the great-great-great-granddaughter of President Adams. Her brother holds the family Bible, and in that family Bible states all the natives that married into the president's family.
Wow.
Frequent questions asked. No, I do not live in a teepee. I camp in one. Why is there fire in a circle? Fire is believed to be a part of the sun. The sun represents the pale prophet and the direction he will come. The drum calls people together, warns of danger, also used for many ceremonies like prayer and dancing, singing, and the calling of spirits. The circle of life for each one of us is a strand in life. Our life is never unending. Enter from the east. When you're in a circle, you will enter in from the east, because this is where the new world will come and the pale prophet, the teacher. What is sacred to Native Americans? tobacco, cedar, sage, sweet grass. The Old Testament, it is said, "You do not offer any sweet-smelling scents to me." Tobacco, cedar, sage, and sweet grass are gifts to Creator, as well as for purification. Now, the sweet grass was considered the hair of Mother Earth. The sweat lodge. The door faces east. Now, one grandmother will, and I'm going to only talk about a woman's sweat, okay? A grandmother would be outside the east door, and all day long they had a pit. And in this pit would be a fire, and these rocks would burn
Yeah.
all day long. So when that time comes, inside the lodge, there's a hole in the ground. And they would bring the hot rock in, put it in. And the first one would throw, everybody had their prayer to say. It depends on how many rounds you went through. Then they would throw water or whatever. The steam would come up. They'd open the flap, out would go the steam. Creator, we believe, hears our prayers. Now, the door facing east is where our Father, the sun rises. Mother Earth, the floor, everything is ready. Cottonwood sapling arches over our heads while all the darkness of our mother's womb engulfs us. We return to our origin. Fire purifies the stones placed in the center pit. Steam rises to greet the spirits entering this black void. We are purified, our civilized sickness flees as the spirit lives in this. Timeless voids comfort us. Light enters, releasing us from the damp warmth of our mother's womb. Oyani Nawani, all my relations, we emerge reborn. Prayer ties. This is a traditional prayer tie. It's a piece of cloth. Inside it is tobacco. You could put any of your sacreds in it. It is wound 7 times and then tied off. Why 7 times? North, south, east, west, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. It's a prayer tie. It's a gift to Creator. You can hold it, burn it, or bury it. Say your prayer. Turn your back and walk away. If you turn around and look at that prayer tie, you're telling Creator that you do not trust He will answer your prayer. Prayer ties are used to this day, and they are traditionally wound 7 times. Now, why do Native American women carry blankets? Well, we do camp on them, we do have picnics on them, we do carry wood, berries, whatever. But the main purpose was, back during wartime when the white man killed the Indian, the women would go out and look for their warrior. If he was alive, she laid her blanket over him, took him back to camp, and nursed him back to health. This tricked the white man because the white man thought he was dead, but he left him. The women took care of him. They were alive, the blanket they would be brought back home and nursed back to health. Now, how did the Native American children handle life so young and taken away from their parents? When a child is born in a nation, each child is taught a lullaby. And each nation has their lullaby. So in captivity, when a child is crying, if they heard a lullaby being hummed by another child, and it was their nation, this comforted that child and helped that child to live in these schools and reservations and all these things, and it comforted them greatly. The Native American women torture prisoners. Oh, yes, they did. They would take the prisoner and tie him to a wooden stake. And then they would go into the woods and they would sharpen up their stakes and torture him. They would keep poking him.
Oh,
Before he could take his last breath, he would be placed on fire. How did the Native American learn medicine? In 1650, the lost tribes of ancient Israel, after exile of 1290, met up with what I believe was our ancestors. The pale prophet, the teacher, came and taught the medicine from Mother Earth. What does tribal and intertribal mean? Well, tribal means if you're at a powwow and you say, we got a tribal coming up, you dance your nation. When you hear intertribal, it's all nations and they all dance.
that's together, that's mixed up together.
Yes.
Everybody does.
We got an intertribal coming, so you'll see many nations come to dance. But when it's tribal, it's one nation.
Only the one.
Now with me is a Cherokee which started out to be a tear dress, like crying. Later it turned into a tear dress. Both are correct. The women were not allowed scissors. This is an original 1800s pattern. I was very fortunate to get this. I made this dress over 20 years ago.
Wow.
And they tore the material to make this. Now, each Indian, when they were, in captivity, the white man put them in shirts, and they said, well, can we have fringe? And the white man said, no, that's just, no. So they went back to talk, and they came back, can we have ribbons? And the white man said, yes, you may. So, these are my Shoshone colors, black, blue, and red in that order. So when you are out with other natives and you see their colors, you'll know what nation. This is River Wild. He is Apache, Cherokee, and Scott. And these are his colors.
Wow.
And this is how we know he is. Don't go too far. Now, you can tell the status of a man by his loincloth. And I don't mean what's behind it. All right? The longer the loincloth, the holier the man.
Oh.
The shorter the loincloth, the stupider the man. Native hair is very sacred. If you went to somebody and you touched their hair, automatically you were married to them.
Sweet.
Only the wife, clan mother, or the mother, wife, clan mother, can touch hair. Now, why do Indians braid their hair? We've been told time and time again that they are spiritual people. Well, here we go is God the Father, God the Son, Holy Spirit. Above me, within me, below me. Hair is very sacred. Medicine bags.
Oh, yeah.
Don't touch them. You will get screamed at. You might even get hit. And I'm sorry about that. Where's your war club? Oh, that doesn't work. We'll go on. Now the jingle dress. A little girl. I don't know if any of you have ever tapped trees, but you've seen that aluminum spigot that you would put into the tree? Well, that's what a jingle looks like on a dress. And a little girl would have to dance one dance or many dances, but every day for 350 days. Each day she receives a jingle. After that jingle, in 350 days, she is now a medicine woman.
Wow.
I love the trade blanket. Anything and everything goes. I'll figure one out. Yeah, I'll try it. So I went up to a native blanket and I threw down a few bandanas, right? What are they, right? And I got this. So when we go into the circle,
Wow.
we take our feathers with us and we put our tobacco or our sacreds in here. And before we step into the circle, we drop it on the ground. That's our gift to Creator and our thank you for allowing us to join together in the circle. What does it mean when a hatchet's on the ground? That means somebody's going to get tore apart, beaten up or something. You see a war hawk on the ground, turn around and walk away. Is there such a thing as a full-blooded, blonde hair, blue-eyed Native American?
I don't
No.
think so. That's impossible.
In 1582, the Mandam tribe on the west coast was very pale, and they had tricolored hair. And when the native of darker skin met up with them, they called them the white wolves. And then during this time, a white wolf was considered evil. Today, it's not. Now, tricolored, red, brunette, and blonde. My mom was this. They were the tallest people. No, they ranged from 6 to 7 feet tall.
Yeah, I heard about those people, yeah.
I'm the shortest person in my family. All the men are over 6'3".
Wow. That,
The
That's
Mandam
cool.
Indian, the white man came, and the other Indians came, and killed thousands of them, down to maybe about like 135. They were removed from there to the Pine Ridge Reservation, and later renamed Sioux. Now, if you go to the Pine Ridge, you will see the young ladies there dyeing their hair blonde. Now, it was the Native American that invented chess, and I'd like to encourage anybody who has a child, grandchild, to pick up a native chessboard. There's clan mothers, chiefs, wolves, horses, bears, there's all sorts there. It is such an easy way to learn how to play chess because you know the status of each piece. Cornmeal. Now, yellow cornmeal represents women with wealth and abundance. White represents rebirth into the spirit world. Blue, spiritual importance, represents the eastern rising sun, the setting, of life and understanding. Now, with me, to be gifted one kernel of blue corn it's the highest honor a woman will ever receive. Because the blue cornmeal came from the white buffalo calf woman, who came to us from the spirit world to inform us that a new world was coming and for us to prepare. Blue cornmeal is very sacred, very difficult to get, but it is the highest honor a woman will receive. Now, how do you fire a chief? Well, the delusions of a chief is rape, theft, or murder. Now, shamans, they were holy men. They didn't have to work, and they didn't. They were getting high to have those visions to tell you what to do. And that was their tradition. And that's how they worked it. Now, I made a mess here. This is a real wolf pelt, and it was a pet. We love our pets. And when they die, we continue to love them. When smudging, my abalone shell has a hole in the bottom of it, so old. But you would do this. You would bring that smoke up and you would pray and purify yourself. Here with me is a sage bundle, which in emergency, we light it. Now-
Emergency.
Huh?
What kind of emergency?
I'm in the car and there's a cop behind me and my muffler is off. Now, how did women make the regalia, their leather? How did they sew them together? This is a bone, and this is what they would use to poke holes through their leather and then tie it. And they were pretty smart too, because this top that I have on, if I'm out in the circle in the summertime and I'm dying of heat, you can remove the sleeves.
Oh,
Quartz were quite important to the native because they believed that's where their strength and their power would come from. This is a raw quartz dug out of the ground up in the Waverly Mountains.
boy.
Some women would use coral to soften their leather instead of brain tan. And if you don't know what brain tanning is, ugh.
You don't want to know.
It's gritty, real gritty, and it makes your leather soft. And the women would chew on it. In Florida, in every tribe, in every council, you have to learn to craft. You need to know one craft. In Florida, the Seminole Indians, this is a turtle, and this is a seed. And this turtle was carved out of a seed.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Oh, it's falling apart. Oh.
Okay, okay.
it's only the base.
Okay.
Oh, my turtle.
Another piece, yeah.
Wanishi. Wanishi.
Oh my
I
God.
say turtle itself is not broken. It can be fixed.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as our people grow older and our elderly are kind of like stuck at home, and they wish they had their cedar and they don't have it, they would go and buy today a cedar block. This brought much comfort to the native. Now,
It's 8:30.
this is a porcupine feathered earring. And if you can see that the red is not paint, that's glass beads. The feather, chicken, and it's for a pierced ear. As we grow older, we can't always carry all these heavy things with us because, one, they're annoying, and as you grow older, you gain respect. This is a tribal elder's tobacco pack, pouch. And all she would need is just a little bit. And she would wear it and keep it.
She only needed a small one.
Only a small one.
What is the pouch that you have from your waist?
This one?
Yeah.
That's my tobacco.
Oh, okay.
You know, so when the cop's behind me and I'm lighting the sage, I'm throwing the tobacco on. Okay. Now, I would like to present Grandmother Dragonfly, and she's going to give you some stories from Turtle Island, Chautauqua. Now, I was a member of Turtle Island, Chautauqua. My native mother was Doris Riverbird. She passed away. Chief Night Eagle, her husband, he passed away. That is no longer a village. Eastern Woodlands has broken up. Chief Makwa died, and they are no longer. Eastern Delaware Nations. The chief died last year. They're going strong. The daughter took over. Can women be warriors? Yes, they can be,
Yes, they
and
can.
they are. So, I humbly ask that you will warmly welcome our tribal elder, Grandmother Dragonfly, to give a story.
I'll tell you a story. This story is about a coyote and how the coyote stole fire. Long ago, men were hungry and unhappy. They were cold. The only fire in the world was on a mountaintop, watched by 3 skookums. They guarded the fire carefully. Men might steal it and become as strong as they. Coyote wanted men to be warm and happy. Well, one day he crept to the mountaintop and watched the skookums. He watched all day and all night. They thought he was only a skulking coyote. Well, Coyote saw that one skookum sat always by the fire. When one went into the teepee, another came out and sat by the fire. Only when the dawn wind arose was there a chance to steal fire. Then Skookum, shivering, hurried into the teepee, and she called, "Sister, sister, get up and watch the fire." But the sister was slow. Coyote went down the mountainside and called a great council of the animals. He knew that if he stole fire, the Skookums would chase him, Coyote said, and the other animals must help him. Again, Coyote skulked to the mountaintop. The Skookums saw only a coyote shivering in the bushes. When the dawn wind rose, the Skookum on guard called, "Sister, sister, get up and watch the fire." But the sister was slow. And then Coyote seized the fire and jumped down the mountainside. Quickly, Skookum followed him. She caught the tip of his tail in her hand. Therefore, it is white, even to this day. But Coyote reached Wolf. Wolf seized the fire, leaped down the mountain. Skookum chased Wolf, but Wolf reached Squirrel. Squirrel seized the fire and leaped from branch to branch down the mountain. The fire was so hot that it burned the back of his neck. You see, the black spot is there even to this day. The fire was so hot that it made Squirrel's tail curl up over his back. Skookum chased Squirrel, but Squirrel reached Frog. Frog took the coals of fire in his mouth and hopped away. Skookum chased Frog. She caught his tail in her hand. Frog jumped away, but Skookum kept the tail, and that's why frogs have no tail, even to this day. Soon Skookum caught up with Frog again. To save the fire, Frog spit it out on the wood. Wood swallowed it. Skookum did not know how to get the fire out of wood, but Coyote did. Coyote showed the Indians how to get fire out of wood by rubbing 2 dry sticks together, as they do even to this day.
Not done yet.
Got more here?
I cannot close without a prayer. This is the Great Spirit prayer. This is an ancient prayer. It goes way back. But some people think that it's fairly new. No, it's not. And another thing I want to bring up is Amazing Grace. That was the first Christian song that the Native American learned. And when they started singing it, they made a CD of it, and it was banned from the United
Yes,
States.
It was.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was. It wasn't allowed to be
Because
played.
it was so sacred. You cannot do that with sacred things. Amazing Grace Today by Walila is now, you can purchase it now, but it's privately.
It's beautiful.
And this is my prayer. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, who breathes, gives life to all the world, hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Help me to remain calm and strong in the face of all that comes towards me. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Help me seek pure thoughts and act with intentions of helping others. Help me find compassion without empathy overwhelming me. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so when my life fades as a fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Aho, Wanishi, Namaste. This ends my presentation.
Also, natives look up. White man looks down and prays this way. Natives look up at Creator. It's just a little difference. We are all joined together. We're all one people. When you look at each other, we all look differently, but in reality, we all have red blood